off, I take 2 steps back and say, remember, we are now saying, I am so much more than enough. I am so much more than enough. So let's remember that, right? But the 4 pillars are look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. So we know when we're looking good, we're feeling the vibe. We got a lilt in our step. We took the little extra mile that morning. We're good. We're feeling good when we walk out the door. And I think that, excuse me, it's kind of an instant. Okay, I'm good. Today is going to be a good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of And Just One Question. I'm excited for you all today to talk to our guest. It's going to explain a ton of what she's been working on. There's a new book that just came out. But before we do that, let's get into just a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll be right back to get started.
You're listening to Just One Question with your host, Lion Flood. This podcast is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Hello, welcome back. And I appreciate everyone, all of our listeners, and even our viewers who are watching this. I sincerely thank you all for being here because, as I say every time, without you, I would just be talking to myself. I think my wife would say I would enjoy that either way. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And you know how we do this, ladies and gentlemen. We just have that one question. So we have Clarissa Burt with us today, but I want to tell you just a little bit about her from what my research showed a little bit, and then she can delve into what she does as well. But she's the CEO and founder of In the Limelight multimedia platform for women entrepreneurs. In the Limelight Media's mission is to elevate the position and condition of women entrepreneurs globally, both personally and professionally, providing educative, entertaining, and empowering content. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Clarissa Bird, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good, Lion. How are you doing? What a beautiful show you've got going on here. Because I've been in media forever, and your setup, your whole intro, it's just really all beautiful. So I'm just waiting for that one question, and then I'll go.
Thank you so very much. I wanted to try to separate myself just a little bit, and that's one of the things I thought about. I said initially when I first came up with this concept, it was directly supposed to go towards like maybe celebrities or anyone in that field that has a busy schedule. I know they have tons of interviews and sometimes these questions and they get tired of it. I said, well, what if I just could get a hold of someone and just ask them one question? And then it could be 3, 5 minutes or whatever it is. And
Right,
it just kind of came up
right.
from that. But
I love
we're
it.
not here
Yeah,
for
it's
that.
awesome.
We're here for you. We're here to talk about this book. But before we do that, I'd love to you to give our listeners just a little bit of history about yourself, who you are, and kind of how you got here.
Right. Well, I'm a Philly girl. I was born back in Philadelphia a very long time ago, and wound up graduating high school in New Jersey. Went into the bright lights and big city of New York right after I turned probably about 19, because I wanted to model. That was kind of where I was at the time. I was taken by an agency there. A couple of months later, I was living in Europe, and so I started out in Paris, and then I was in Italy, in Milan, and Rome, and my modeling career took off fairly well. After which, I started to do some movies. I love my movies, so I think the only thing that came to the United States was The Never-Ending Story. So, if you saw The Never-Ending Story Part 2, I was the mean queen in that movie. And then I moved into my own television production company when I was living in Italy. But first, I started as on camera talent in Italy. So I did a lot of work on television there. And then I opened up my own production company. And my last production was like 3 hour live broadcasts with 18 cameras live. So they were pretty big productions. That almost killed me. And so I moved back to the States about in 2005. And from here in Phoenix, Arizona, I started up my own multimedia platform that consists of video, television, podcast, and a digital magazine. We do cater to entrepreneurs, many women, obviously, but not only. And we're great. We're on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and just living the dream, loving what we're doing.
Ooh, spill it off. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have to go and double check and look back now because you just said that never ending story. And the first thing that popped in my mind was Atreyu.
Yes, Atreyu, exactly.
Definitely look
Apparently,
at that.
according to a generation of kids, and it really catered,
Wow.
the Neverending Story really catered to 12-year-old boys, kind of that was its gig. And according to a generation, and I have a cousin that lets me know all the time that when the horse was in the quicksand and Atreyu couldn't
Don't say it.
save him, it absolutely terrorized a whole generation.
Yes.
I think it was like a PSTD moment for all kids all everywhere that couldn't save that horse with Atreyu.
I'm
Everybody
about to
wanted to
cry
jump in
right
the quick.
now.
Everybody wanted to jump in that quicksand and help Atreyu save that horse. So
Yes.
it was kind of one of those things that, funnily enough, the self-esteem regime also kind of has kind of really good cult status now. There's a whole thing, it's like I mean, I've gotten pictures sent to with vans that vans that are
Right.
there's painting all over the vans, and I'm on the side of the vans like and they
Okay.
do shows, like there are itinerant shows, right, for the Never Ending Story, and there's all Facebook groups and all kinds of things around the Never
Yeah.
Ending Story.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check it out. And you mentioned the book, The Self-Esteem Regime, and I was wondering, and I did some little light research on it and so forth, and the way it's written is different. It's written almost like in an organized kind of way. What made you implement the book in that way
Right.
versus I guess the the
Just a
nor
regular read, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was that about?
Well, I didn't want it to be a regular read. I didn't want it to be just kind of talking at someone. I wanted to be able to give the tools and the resources within the book that kind of made it also kind of like a book and a workbook. I like to call my book a manual. It's a manual, and for me and for all, it's a mission and a movement, right? It's a resource. It's not a read. Let's put it that way. And every chapter begins with an R-E word. So I love using resource because it's another RE word. We start with release, Lion. It's release, rebuild, responsibility, reinvent, reciprocal. There's all kinds of 12 chapters in there in the book that will absolutely show you the way into happy, healthy self-esteem. Lots of us have issues we know we need to work on, and we don't,
Yes.
right? So we're not taking the responsibility that we need to for our lives and the path that we need to be on in order to make ourselves a better person tomorrow than we are today.
Wow.
So I've put it all into the regime. And again, regime is an organized way of doing things so that you release everything, then you rebuild, and we start the rebuilding process through more rewords. I must say that between Clarissa's Corner, the Clarion Call, the review, the case studies, the homework, the affirmations that you will find in every chapter, I'm getting some really great feedback from the way the book was written. And again, thanks to Gary Krebs who helped me do that. Because I wanted to give tangible exercises, again, resources or exercises that people can implement right then and there, getting started. Tomorrow's not promised, Lion. We got to get on it. Like we got business to do. Let's get it done. And that's kind of the way I live my life and the way I wrote the book.
I love that re stuff. And as you were speaking, the first thing that popped in my mind is almost restructure our mindset, right? Because life doesn't come with a manual. But if we get a book that kind of guides us a little bit, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And if someone
Right.
can show us a way, like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it that way. And a book like this can actually help someone. And I was going to ask you, and I think you answered a little bit of why did you write the book now? I guess in
Interesting.
this time frame.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, first of all, the time frame is really more divine guidance than anything else. It's just a divine intervention more than anything, I would say, than guidance. I've been wanting to write the book for a very long time. Writing a book is a massive undertaking. And I didn't necessarily have the time to just sit down and go, you know what, I think I'm just going to spend the next 3 months writing a book. I got stuff to do that's, I'm running a business as well. So Gary did step in and said, I'll write the book. I really want to do this with you. Had a great time doing that. I also knew that we were onto something when we got a New York City publisher, pick it up in COVID year. We were picked up in, I think it was the summer of 2020. So we were like all in full COVID. And we got even in advance, which was almost unheard of at the time because everything had come to a screeching halt. I knew then that we were onto something. I knew that at the end of COVID, I also had the idea that we were going to be experiencing some loss, right? These last 2.5 years have been a lot about loss of faith, loss of hope, loss of family, loss of friends, loss of jobs, loss of money, loss of ourselves, loss of our individuality. In other words, who am I? There was the great, not recession, the great, when everybody, jumped from corporate and went into, what's the word I'm looking for?
Restructure.
Everybody jumped. Yes, thank you. And so everybody, now was kind of looking at a new way of doing things. They were going to be at-home entrepreneurs because somebody potentially had to be home with the kids. Nobody could be corporate anymore. I mean, there's all kinds of restructuring around these last couple of 2.5 years. And so with that comes a lot of uncertainty. Who am I? Who are we? How do we move forward? What are we doing? There's been so much, and especially with that all of the loss. People need to turn to something, someone, somewhere, and that a lot of people are doing books, courses, classes, some documentaries and films also that talk to personal development. When I was a kid growing up, I used to go into Barnes and Noble, and there used to be Border books and Walden books, and I'd be in the self-help section. It was this little section. It wasn't too much, but it was just enough for me to be able to know I wasn't going crazy, that there were other people in the world, right, that were also on my path. Now, if you walk into Barnes and Noble, which is the only walk-inable bookstore really of merit, not of merit, of that we all know of. Let's put it that way. It's massive. The personal development section is massive, and it's $1 billion industry. So people are looking for answers. They're looking for support. They're looking for assistance and guidance. And that's where books like mine come into play. I started to write the book because I could see women in my life that I perceived as being amazing human beings, and they didn't have the same perception of themselves. So whether it be my mother or my grandmother or the models that I worked with, I had the good fortune to be working with top 1% of supermodels in the world for quite a good couple, 6, 7, 8 years. And I could see even there that, as we perceive them, they have everything. We perceive these girls as, God, they've got everything in life. Well,
Yes.
they're also human beings, right? and self-esteem hits everybody, men, women, children of all ages, because life will continue to trigger you. And what my book does is help you have those tools and resources in the shed that you need whenever when life will trigger you.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, we just had someone that popped up and asked a question, and I'll read it here. And they said, if a woman who is over 40 is trying to find themselves again because they were lost for so long, what
Right.
advice would you say to help them start their journey, I guess, on a different path?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, again, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, our 60s, our 70s, they're all decades that are going to look, feel, and sound different because we continue to evolve as we grow, as we learn, as we seek, as life puts us on other paths. This is what I was saying before. When you are armed with the tools and resources that personal development, help books and resources will give you, you'll understand that there are things in life that it's kind of normal that you let go of. You're not still at home at 40 living with your parents, most likely. You've moved on. You've got a family of your own or your own career. In other words, things always are ebbing and flowing. You are in continual change. And that's the good news, because we have to learn how to, again, chapter 1, release what no longer serves us, and to rebuild upon the things that we know that we have learned in our lives that do serve us, right? So not to fear, you're most likely on the wrong path. It may feel a little different than it did. And as we change and we evolve and we grow, things get to be a little scary sometimes. They're like, wow. And fear is one of the main factors we do talk about here. Fear is nothing more than face everything and rise. Right?
Mm.
Just keep on going. Keep yourself motivated. Keep yourself, know where you want to go and know how to get there. I think that educating yourself, and I do a lot of it with courses and classes online, things I don't know I want to learn, I make sure that I do. Another thing that we have, and I'll say this to our listener, is people are also afraid of failure. Fail. What if I fail? What if I don't? What if you don't fail? Why do you have to think you are going to fail? And let me add this: failing is your first attempt in learning.
Oh,
First attempt in learning. Nothing, I guarantee you, the first car that came off the assembly line wasn't the perfect car. The first light bulb that, Einstein or Tesla, depending on how you want to believe, the first light bulb wasn't the perfect light. There are things that we do that and we will fail. Fail means it wasn't a success the first time around, basically. But
yeah.
as you grow, as you go, you will learn and become closer to the success that you were looking for. And once you hit that success, what happens? We want another success. So we're probably going to fail a couple more times until we get to success. So don't put too much stock in failure and success. A lot of the things that we're doing it's the process along the way. Who we are when we're untangling those Christmas lights. That's I like to use that example because we've all been there, right? It's like, who are you
Yes.
calm, and do you know that in another few minutes you're going to have them untangled with no issue at all? Are you going to stand there and it depends. Like, just calm down, chill out, and know it's all part of the process. And if you're going to enjoy the process along with it, that's the cherry on the icing on the top of the cake.
Yes, that's a great analogy. Now that I pictured it. I'm like, sometimes I'm struggling with them, so that's great. And I would
Yeah.
think that in this journey, in that process that you're going, there's a lot of support. And I noticed when I was skimming through the book, you talk about support groups and the importance of them. Like, who are
Yes.
they? What do they do? What does that mean for our listeners?
Well, this is what I like to say about that. We learn from the minute we're born. We're learning, right? And we learn from our native tribe. That's the mom, dad, family, friends, aunts, uncles, whatever. We learn from the natal tribe, right? Whatever it is they taught us, and what they taught us is what they were taught. Usually, it just very little changes along the way, right? Then we have our faith. A lot of things we learn from our faith. And I'm not trying to get it on anybody's bad side, but there may be some things that you may question. It may not resonate with you. I know that there are a few things in my faith I questioned, and that's okay. Then we have our educative process, right? So universities, schools, friends, peers, what did we learn along the way with them? What did they impart? And this is the way it ebbs and flows. This is what life brings us, right? So when we are of age and we know what it feels true to us, it's a good time to start creating. Yes, you're always going to have the friends and family along the way. You're going back for Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners. I'm not saying that, certainly. But as you grow, it may look and feel different to you than what you were originally taught, right? So, and that might annoy some people, but you have to live your own truth, right? So
Absolutely.
that's really important. Creating the boundaries is really important. So we want to make sure that we continually love them where they're at, because it doesn't mean you have to cross them off the list. But as you're growing, you want to be maturing and living in your own truth. Those
Mhm.
support groups that you now create are the ones that you have found along the way, that do nurture your soul, that do help you rise, that do support you, and that you do the same for them. It's that reciprocal, which is my last chapter in the book, is the reciprocal give and take. It's the one where you've got your ride or die. You've got your call in 3 o'clock in the morning. It's the one that that will always tell you truth. There's no jealousy involved. There are no negative, there's no envy involved. None of the negative emotions. These are the people that will help pull you up. And as you grow into your happy, healthy self-esteem, as you feel more strong and rooted within yourself, you will do the same for others.
Wow, that is so powerful. And while you were saying that, the listeners actually just called in and said, "I'm getting that book." So
That's
that's a
awesome.
great thing right
Here's
there.
another one, Lion. Here's another one that I don't want to miss this. We also
Okay.
often hear, I am enough. I am enough. You are enough. He is enough. Everybody's enough. Well, okay. Look up the word enough. And enough means only as much as is required.
Mm,
Now you think about that, because I know I'm so much more than is required. And I don't know
right.
about you, Lion, but
Right.
we are so much more than is required, right? So be careful of the word, because
Gosh.
your subconscious believes everything you tell it. Be very careful what you tell your subconscious. Be really careful with the words you're using, and make
Mm,
sure that the words that you are using with yourself help you rise. In the book, I've adopted an exercise in the book that I learned originally from Louise Hay, and I also know that Jack Canfield uses in a lot of his works. A chicken soup for the soul. Many of us know who Jack Canfield is, and it's called mirror therapy. And this is where you will go and you will sit in front of a mirror and you will talk to yourself for a good 5 minutes. And it's some of the most impactful and powerful work you will ever do. And it looks funny and it feels funny. It's kind of uncomfortable, and you may not want to do it with anybody else around. But that mirror, when you're talking to yourself in it, will tell you and show you things about yourself you didn't know. And if you're waiting for other people to say things to you, don't, because this is about self-esteem. This is about you. It's not called I'm waiting for everybody else to validate me esteem. It's called self-esteem. And so when you get into that mirror and you say, Susie Q, I just want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job today. Or, John Smith, I just want to say, I forgive you. I forgive you
mm,
for dot, 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 dot. And I forgive you, and I want you to know how much I love you.
wow.
Like when you start saying, because usually you're up in your head and you're usually unkind with yourself. You're finding everything is wrong, all the things you need to feel bad about, all the things you need to feel guilty about, all the things you need to feel shame for. You were living in that really low energy space. It's not helping you or anybody else. So
Wow.
when you start to look in the mirror and go, I love you, and I'm so proud of you, just did an amazing podcast, that I think that you really were able to impart some great information to people, and you should, because I know what you had to go through, in order for life to kick you in the teeth so many times, and you kept rising. And now you are in a place with your book. I'm talking, I'm,
Yeah.
just, you get what I'm saying. You
Yes,
get in
absolutely.
front of that mirror and you start to say to yourself all of those wonderful and lovely things. And by the way, I've got a gajillion affirmations in the book that will help you do
Oh,
this too as you go through the exercises. But uh, you know I cannot tell you how powerful the book, if you do the work. And by the way, doing the work, Lion, isn't going to be easy.
yeah.
Don't think it is. You're going to need lots of courage to get through
Yes,
this, but you can
it
do it.
is. It reminds me so much of a couple of things you were saying, and I was like, I'm about to grab a napkin because I'm tearing up over here a little bit. But and I'm going to ask you in a second about the four pillars because I saw that. But when my wife and I first met, she was almost like, "What is all of this around your house?" Because in my apartment at that time, I would always have post-it notes around the home, on my mirror, if you walked in the kitchen, on a wall, but it was
My
positive things.
refrigerator is full.
Yes, it was. And she's like, "Why is it?" Because it helped me if I was feeling something. I read it and I was like, "Oh yeah, that is true." And then
Yes.
the last thing, really quick, before I go into that, when you were speaking about the mirror therapy thing, it jumped in my mind, and it was a thing on Saturday Night Live. I think it was with Dana Carvey and like Michael Jordan, and they would be sitting down, and there was a mirror, and he said, "I am good enough. I am great enough." But that works to talk to yourself
Yeah.
because, like you said, we were so ingrained through the
Yeah.
years of like conditioning ourselves that we weren't. And now I love this new open feeling of people saying, I am able to say and talk that I need therapy without worrying about what someone's thinking about me. And those pillars, I think, would kind of speak to that. So, what are those pillars, and what's your opinion on that?
Well, first off, I take two steps back and say, remember, we are now saying, I am so much more than enough. I am
Mm,
so much more than enough. So let's remember that, right? But the four pillars are look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. So we know when we're looking good, we're feeling the vibe. We got a lilt in our step. We took the little extra mile that morning. We're good. We're feeling good when we walk out the door. And I think that, excuse me, it's kind of an instant. Okay, I'm okay. I'm good. Today is going to be a good day. It's the process also that we go through. It's kind of a self-love process, getting yourself all, snazzed up and feeling really good about what you do see in the mirror. A lot of people don't, and that's a process as well, and it's not as hard as you think. But when you do feel good about the way you look, you're taking pride in yourself, right? So that's an important step. Feel good. Diet, exercise, nutrition. I can't underscore it enough. It's so important, and especially for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. When if we go down, the whole boat goes down. Like if we get sick, I know because I had COVID in November for 3 weeks. I was so sick. You got to take really good care of yourself. So diet, exercise, good nutrition, right? It's really important. Be good. Be good is pretty much everything else in life. So it's your faith, it's leadership, it's your finances, it's all of those other things that help keep the boat afloat. It's learning, your education, your continuing education. And again, I do lots of it on Udemy. I mean, I don't have to get up and go to a college to have my continuing education. I am continually educating myself every day. And it could be YouTube, lots of YouTube stuff too. So making sure that you are continually on top of your game, and no matter what, is really important. Wow, I learned something new today. And that always feels good, right? It just feels really great to be continually learning no matter what. And your greater good. It's paying it forward, paying it back, tithing, volunteering, opening your heart. And it doesn't mean necessarily broad stroke things. People say, oh man, I don't have much I can give. Well, sometimes it could be a can out of the pantry for the food drive. It could
yeah.
be standing up on public transportation for a pregnant woman or the elderly. We used to do that a long time ago. I don't know if people do much of that anymore, but stand up and let someone that really needs to sit, let them
Right.
sit. Helping a woman down the stairs with a baby carriage, keeping that elevator door open when you see somebody running and struggling to get, the littlest thing. Sometimes it's a smile.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a compliment. I'm me. I talk to anybody. But I'm in the supermarket and I'll look at something. Oh, that is the cutest top.
Mm,
Oh, thank you. And off we go. That was the entire exchange. But
yeah.
it kind of felt good to make her feel good. And I meant it. It was genuine, right? So,
Yeah.
Lion, really, the simplest things can be helping you live in your greater good.
Absolutely. I tell you what I'm gonna do, and you think I'm joking when I say this, but my wife knows me. I'm a t-shirt king. I am gonna go get a t-shirt made, and it's gonna say my four pillars are, and I'm gonna say those, and at the bottom it's gonna say what are
Thank you.
yours, and I'm gonna
Exactly.
post that picture and send it to you. Watch, I
Thank
guarantee
you.
you that I'm gonna do
Here's
it.
another thing, if you'll allow me. Boundaries are very important, and I'll be really quick about boundaries. And
Oh
again,
no,
it's another
take it.
self-esteem piece. So boundaries they are teaching others, showing others how you will and will not be treated, how you want to be or not want to be treated, how you will be spoken to or not. And it doesn't have to be done with anger. A lot of people think setting up boundaries means you got no. Doesn't mean any of that. You can do that with ease and joy and glory when you say, hey, do you mind if I talk to you for a second? I just wanted to let you know that what you just did kind of, didn't land so well. May I explain why? And can we do it this way the next time a little bit differently? Most times people don't even know. They're not aware. You know what I mean? And I know that sometimes when I'm getting head up and I'm overwhelmed, I know I can come off a little, people are like, whoa, I know, sorry, I got a lot going on. So, I'm sorry are not two curse words. it's okay to say, I apologize.
Yeah.
I honestly really didn't mean, I know you didn't mean it that way, and that's okay. And I'm glad we've had this moment to clear it up. That thank you for listening. It can be so kind, a boundary. It can be set up so well. So that's really important. But the other thing that I really wanted to tell you is this: as we all know, tomorrow is not promised. You never know. My mother's in the hospital right now with double pneumonia and fluid in her lungs. So,
Mm.
she was in a car accident a month ago. I won't digress, but you never know what's going to happen on any daily basis. You just don't. But you can do anything until you can't. And what I mean by that is there's someone you need to be picking up a phone and calling and checking in with, connecting with, apologizing to, asking forgiveness from, uh, just saying, listen, I only called just want to tell you I love you. That's it. I thought about you. Just want to tell you how appreciated you are. Bam. Huh? Really? Is now let me tell you what that does. It makes you feel amazing. And how do you think it made them feel? And some
So
of
good.
these, remember that some of these calls that you have to make may be way overdue. And there could be some muck in the middle still that needs to be cleared up. But when you're the one taking the action, when you're the one that's proactive, when you're the one that knows you did everything you could to right the wrong, no matter whose wrong it was, doesn't matter. We're not living in judgment. We're just know that we miss that person in our lives, and we really would like to open up a dialogue again. And maybe
It,
with stronger, again, those tools in the shed, right, that really
yeah.
help to reinforce emotions when they get in the way are a mess, right? They can be a mess, right? Let's come back with like good, strong, again, boundaries, those tools and resources, all that
Mm.
work we did in the mirror, all the forgiveness that we have in our heart, and see if we can make it better.
Yeah, it touches on so many things that I think about already, and I correlate it to the I say often the prom dance, right? You have two people who want to dance, but they're both afraid to ask each other. I hear people often say, "Well, they don't
Yeah.
call me, so I'm not gonna call them." And
Yeah.
what I guarantee you, today I'm gonna make one of those calls today. You just inspire me. I don't know who I'm gonna do it to yet. Matter of fact, I'm gonna scroll down my contact list and just stop it on someone, whoever it stops on.
Sometimes say, man, just calling to tell you how much I love you and I appreciate you. How you
That is
doing?
so good.
Boom. You know.
Yes, because I definitely don't think anyone will ever perfect self esteem, and I'm sure the book is for men, women, or
Yes.
both, and
It
everyone.
has a blue cover on purpose, Lion. It's a blue cover for men. You think I'm kidding? When I first got the book back, you'll see now there's three different blues, right?
Yeah.
There's three different colors of blue. It was orange, pink, and yellow.
Okay.
And it was the only thing I asked the publisher if they wouldn't mind changing because it was beautiful and it popped out in a very feminine way, from the Barnes and Noble shelves that I'm very proud to say is in the Barnes and Noble. But I sent it back and I said, "Would you do me? Could you make it three different iterations of blue?" One, because I think it's a more calming effect to the book, and B, I really want guys to pick this book up. I
Yeah.
want men to be able to because we're not talking about women here, and I just love the fact that you're a male show host that picked up on the book, and I thank you for that because I really want us to both be advocating for men as well, because they are not exempt from low self esteem, and
Hmm.
so we've also got a huge issue around the world, but let's say here in the United States with our younger generations that are living in depression, they're living in anxiety, they're living in suicidal thoughts, or they have committed suicide. And it's not my words, it's the CDC that says 44% of those age groups are really in great difficulty. So what if you as a parent, really got yourself I don't want to use the word armed. That's not the right word, but you get yourself educated, right, around what good, happy, self-esteem is, so that you can, have this in the house, read it, get yourself fortified, and then pass it on to your kids and say, "I really want you to read this book, my book, any book, doesn't matter. Let's get started, right? Let's get them on a personal development path that is not social media, which has absolutely ruined a couple of generations. We won't even go down that path. There's not enough time on the podcast for how bad social media is, because look, self-esteem 101, never compare yourself to someone else. You're lucky you get to be you. That's another show. But self-esteem 101 is never compare yourself to anyone else. You get to be you. And you're lucky that you get to be you, but it's intrinsic in us to want to compare ourselves. And we're all on social media and we're looking, oh man, look at the car he just bought. Wow, look at that house he just got. Oh, look at that new, yeah. Oh, I love her make. Oh, she's so pretty. Oh, she's the popular girl. Oh, he's the cool guy in school. Look, there's a place in this world for everybody. You don't have to. I wasn't the cool kid in school. I'm kind of cool now, if you don't mind my saying, but I wasn't the cool kid. I was not the cool kid in school, right? I just wasn't. Everyone has their own path and everyone finds it, right? You may not be the quarterback, but you could be, you might be something, and you will be something amazing when whatever it is you want to be, you will be. Now, people say, you can do anything. Look, I know NASA's not going to call me tomorrow and I'm going to be on the moon in a week. That's probably not going to happen. But I do know that if I put my mind to it and I do the work, remember, a lot of the things that we want to do in life does take work and it takes action, and you must be proactive and you must believe, right? So I know I digress, but I get very, very emotional.
No,
I mean, I
I
get very
love the
impassioned.
I love the passion on it, because it invokes an emotion in our listeners and our people out there. And I will absolutely tell you, especially speaking from my point of view or my culture, most men are sent on a journey that we're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to show emotions. If I fell when I was young, it was a simple aspiration of, "Are you bleeding? No. Well, then get up
Yeah.
then and let's go." It wasn't
Yes.
that. Allow
You
me a
got
second or
that stuff.
two to
Yeah.
grieve. So that's why I want this information out there for anyone. I don't care who it is, because my goal for my podcast is to educate and inspire. And initially, I started off talking about business and investments, and my wife was like, "You got tons of listeners who are women, but
Yeah.
maybe bring something." And I was like, "I'm fine with it. I don't care."
Yeah.
So pick up the book, men. Go get it. Anyone, parents, get it for yourself and for your kids, because
Right.
sometimes, like you said, we aren't taught ways to improve ourselves. So if we can
Right.
get a manual, if we can get a book or something that
Yeah.
says, "Hey,
Yeah.
try this out,"
Yeah.
like, wow,
This is a
that is so.
manual. That's what I call it all the time. There's all kinds of things in here. I will tell you, not because, again, it's my baby, yes, of course, but I'm really very proud of it. And the work that it's done in this book let me just read you a couple of the
Go
affirmations real
for it.
quick.
Go for it.
What chapter am I in? I'm in I don't want to be in reciprocal. I want to get in something a little bit. We're in the chapter replace. Okay, here we go. I don't know what I'm reading, but I'm going to read it off. Give and receive easily. Add value to people's lives. Be positively powerful. Be bold, confident, and a visible leader. Get rid of thoughts that aren't useful, beautiful, or joyful. Not take, sorry, dream more while I'm awake. See myself as beautiful just the way I am. Know that I matter. Know that I am loved. Know that I make a difference. Now I could be here all day because there are many more. But just to give you an
Yes.
idea of, when you read the chapter, there's no way you're not flying high after you read one of these chapters. Just no way. It's just like, because we give you all those tools, and now again, doing the work, the journaling, all of that, you're going to bring up some stuff, but that's great. It means you're facing the problems, the fears, we talked about fear before, the failure thoughts, all that negative stuff. I call them my daily demons. God dang,
Mm.
those daily demons, they're coming back. And now I'm at a point where they used to sit right on my shoulder. They'd be all darn day. They'd be there. Now, and
Mm.
they show up. I'm just like, sorry, not today.
Not
Not
today.
today, right? Not today. No time for that. So yeah.
That is
One other
great.
thing I'd like to leave your listeners with, if you'll allow me, is
Go for it.
recently I said to someone, I'm like, I want to live high. I just want to live high. And
Mm.
by that, I mean, whoa, Clarissa, no, not that kind of high. I want to live with honesty, in integrity, with greatness and honor. And I mean that sincerely. When you
Wow.
think of it, if you're living honestly and in radical honesty, I sometimes am not the most popular kid on the block, because I'm going to tell you honest.
Yeah.
you know, I'm really going to tell you honest, and I live in honesty. I won't accept. deception of any kind in my life. I just won't have it. Integrity are your moral principles. It's your moral uprightness, right? It's like, who are you when no one else is in the room? Do you do the right thing when no one else is looking? Greatness or gratitude, whichever you prefer, is fine. Yeah, I want to be thankful every day, and I want to live in, I want to do the right thing. And then I want to live in honor, which is, who are you when you're not in the room? Are you showing up with all these, these are values, right? That we have in life, and these are my top four. There are others, but these are my top four. When I say I want to live in honor, real quick, I was on a show called Survivor. I actually won Survivor, but I digress. So I was on a show called Survivor. We all know it. And I was in Italy, Nicaragua, and we had an exercise we had to do that day. So the helicopter shows up, and I'm with two other girls, and they're much younger than I am, and they're beautiful, and they're the bikini babes that were on the island, and they're lovely girls. But they got a hold of the helicopter pilot, and they said, "Hey, listen, can you go over there to that little kiosk? Remember, we're in Nicaragua, that little kiosk. Can you buy us some stuff? We're starving." And we were really hungry at the time. So this guy comes back out with a paper bag. Production didn't catch it, whatever. So he hands the bag, get up in the air, and he hands the bag to the girls, and they started delving into this bag and eating things. And they tapped me on the shoulder, and they passed me some food, and I looked back, and I went, "Oh, no, thank you." Now, we're hungry. I'm telling you, we're starving. I lost 20 pounds on that island in 3 months. So you can imagine how hungry I was. But by living in honesty and integrity and living in honor, I was honoring not only myself, because I took an oath to the rules of that game, right? And it also, with the girls, they kind of went, ooh, it detached them from me, because they thought now that I was probably thought I was all that, or or that I was going to tell on them, or, whatever they thought, whatever the perception was for them was different than for me, because I knew that if I had eaten it was all junk food, by the way, it was candy and chips and whatever else. But when you're hungry, you'll eat anything. And I did not. Now that doesn't, I'm not saying that because I want everybody to go, oh, wow, okay. It's because it's not that difficult to bring your high self to the table. Honesty, integrity, greatness, and honor. When you do that, you help others also live. And I think what it does is it incites others to want to be better people as well. So I think it's great to be, yeah. I think we need better examples, for especially for our younger generations.
Absolutely. And man, this has been so eye-opening, enlightening, and I guess I'll kind of start to wrap it up on this, because as you were speaking, I think I'm hearing the same thing that I kind of took away from the book. There was an underlining um, constant state of gratitude in a sense. Who does that come from somewhere? Does that someone kind of guided you to that through life? You learned it. Where did that come
Um,
from?
you know what? I think it came from a lot of traveling. I was lucky enough to be able to travel a good portion of the world and to see what not having, not owning, not possessing, not having food in the cupboard or whatever else means. And I saw so many very happy people living life happily without having much. And we are constantly wanting more, working for more, going for more, doing for more, which is okay. But it's also really, I submit that it's important also to stop and be happy for what we have, be very grateful for the things that we do have. And for me, it's family, it's health, roof over my head, a warm blanket when it's cold, water to drink. There's a very huge portion of the population of this globe that doesn't have clean water to drink. I mean, if you think about that, when you start getting out there and you start traveling, I've been to Africa many times. I've been to Asia. I've been to many different places where people are living in thatched huts, and they don't have. And it really, it reformulates, if you will, your opinion of gratitude. And
Mm,
when you think you don't have much, you have and here we go again, you have so much more than you
wow.
think you do. So
It,
yeah,
it
I
it
think it
touches
really came
on
from there. Yeah.
it really touches home, and I am so excited that we had this conversation and got to get the word out for everyone to possibly listen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this in any earshot, send this out to someone else. Find Barnes and Noble. I want their phone lines flooded so you can go ask for this book. You need to go pick it up and start the journey of relearning. I'm doing a re now. That's going to be my new
Yes.
phrase today.
Theories.
Yes, every little thing you brought to my attention, like even something as small as like when you were saying about in a grocery line complimenting the shirt. I do something not necessarily similar to that, but I will be standing next to someone and I'll go, "Excuse me, you dropped something," and they'll look at the ground and I go, "Oh, you dropped your smile." And they will light up, right? And even if their day was having a hard day, I've never had anyone go, "Oh no, I don't like that." They always
Mm.
smile, and it makes you feel better too. It makes me feel better. So, um, let anyone know right now who's listening, where else can they find a book? How can they get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Well,
Is there
yeah.
anything I missed? Tell them.
No, yeah, Clarissa Burt anywhere on social except Snapchat. It's pretty simple to find me pretty much anywhere. And then Barnes and Noble, obviously, right there in the store. And just real quick, it's just so nice to see my book next to Tabitha Brown, Brene Brown. Has been on Oprah, right next to Deepak Chopra and Joe Dispenza, all the titans, if you will, of the personal development industry. I just feel so grateful for that. And then you can find me also on Amazon. You find the book, The Self-Esteem Regime, on Amazon and Audible and Kindle.
All right. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to go decompress for a little while because now my adrenaline is flowing. I've had emotions come up. I almost broke down thinking about Atreyu. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
12 years old and I'm thinking about that. And to this day, it still affects me. Emotions can carry through life.
Well, that's
Thank
the
you.
point. The point is that what I said before, tomorrow is not always promised. You never know what's going to happen on any given moment. And that's to my point, right? The horse was not savable. So,
Yeah.
save a relationship today if you need to. I think that's a good way to end our podcast.
Relationship. Yes. Thank you so very much. I
Thanks,
appreciate you
Lyle.
being here, Carissa.
Thank
You
you.
hold up for 1 second. I'm gonna do a little house cleaning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming and tuning into another episode of Just One Question. You know how this goes. If you have any subjects or anything you're interested in, send us a note, send us a message. We do read your emails. I may not read all of it, but I'll read a little bit of the sentence. My staff, we're looking for things that you want to hear about. So thank you, and until next show, love each other and go save a relationship.